Hello, bros. We're back with new book Rivals number 276, I believe, and this is a massive, massive fucking intake because I'm going to collapse these roofs. Although I don't know how much you'd have to do to collapse vaulted ceilings. Probably a lot, especially when you got a huge beam running down the center of your house. Anyway, I'm going to do my best to establish a collapsing house society. Let's get this set up and then we shall move along. Come on. Here to crime. Oh, where the fuck is it? Oh, I see. Here comes the fireworks. Let's do it, buddy. Let's make fireworks. Our aim and goal. Control V. 276, I should say, is the number. Playlist, new book arrivals. Done. Save. Open chat. What happened to my theme song? Forgot all about my theme song. Alright. Channel's open, and so are the books. Let's see how many books we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 47, 50, 55, 62 books it looks like I got in the last 2 days. I only picked up 62 books in the last 2 days. It's not many. Anyway, let's check this out. Check it out. The Hobbit. But this is not just The Hobbit. It is a illustrations, and then they added the text by Tolkien. Looks like Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. I think this is 1976 or 77. Ballantine book, so it's technically The Hobbit or There and Back Again. 78. And it just goes through a litany of Hobbit life. I don't know if the story is condensed or whatever it is, but you'd have to read a review of it to find out exactly what kind of version of The Hobbit this is. Do you think this could fit all The Hobbit in it? I doubt it. It's probably abridged, and it's probably, what's that called? Truncated. Yeah, I looked through the box where this book was in, and then I just happened to open this. I came back a second time, looked, saw this. I was like, what is this? And then, of course, it turned out to be The Hobbit. Probably a $20 book, even as a library copy. But I like the library generic Paisley, fleur de lis sort of thing. Let's get into these. There's a collection of little Dell purse books. I have too many of these now, but I will collect them all if I can get them. Carbohydrate gram counter. What is it? 1978. Yeah, back at that time, 77. At the time, grocery stores had these in the checkout. In the checkout aisle where there's candy and all that bullshit, just sitting there, chips, They put these in there. They still have a variation of these, but I believe they're a bigger size. And they're kind of like a magazine about this size. All right, The Book of Snobs, William Makepeace Thackeray. And I got this at a thrift store along with a shitload of the Trollope books and Wilkie Collins, Agatha Christie, all this, bruv. The Snob Royal, long since at the commencement of the reign of her present gracious majesty, it chanced on a fair summer evening, as Mr. James would say, that 3 or 4 young cavaliers were drinking a cup of wine after dinner at the hostelry called the King's Arms, kept by Mistress Anderson in the royal village of Kensington. Ah. Makepeace Thackeray was also an artist. What was his famous book? I know he wrote The Maid of Scatter, didn't he? No, that was Blackstone. Anyway, Thackeray was a artist, so he often did illustrations in his books as well, so they're all pretty cool. Stendhal on Love. The hell was Stendhal's first name? Grendel Stendhal. Marie Henry Bale, who wrote under the pseudonym Stendhal. Oh, I did not know. Was born in Grenoble, or however you say that, Grenoble, in 1783, but spent much of his life. So his name was Marie, but he was a dude. All right, that's kind of like, what's his name? Anyway, it's that kind of thing. So he wrote as Stendhal. He died of apoplexy in 1842. His epitaph, which he wrote himself, describes him as a Milanese. Whatever that means. Did not know that Stendhal was a nickname for Marie Henri Bale. I don't know if that's the pronunciation, Marie, but makes sense. Oh. Thus starts the Anthony Trollope books, and I got a shitload of them. Anthony Trollope, Kept in the Dark. I can't remember what I was reading, and they mentioned Trollope about 2 weeks ago, and needless to say, 2 weeks later, a fortnight later, and I have, who knows, 12 books of Trollope. How was she to tell her husband that she had been engaged to one whom he had described to her as a gambler and a swindler? Strong-minded Cecilia Holt cannot bring herself to tell George Western, that's his last name, Western, of her previous engagement to Sir Francis Geraldine. When her husband, as proud and self-willed as his wife, learns the truth, their marriage seems to be heading for disaster. The struggle for mastery, blah, blah, blah. That sounds like a romance novel. Anthony Trollope's Marion Fay. I'm always hoping there's going to be a $1,000 bill in here, but never happens. First published in serial form in the Graphic, 1881-82, Marion Fay is half tragedy, half romantic burlesque, and all the same, and at the same time is one of Trollope's most detailed scrutinies of the workings of the English class system. And we'll skip that. We'll go to this. No, we'll skip that. Chew. Go to this. Anthony Trollope, Mr. Scarborough's family. Mr. Scarborough was luxurious, self-indulgent, and altogether indifferent to the opinions of those around him. A liar and a lawbreaker, he was neither truthful nor moral. Indeed, the kindly lawyer, Mr. Gray, considered him to be the wickedest man the world ever produced. And again, we have the English variation of abbreviations without a period after them, and I have no clue why that is, but I guess that's just a English thing. What other Trollops do we have? The MacDermots of Ballycloran. The MacDermots of Ballycloran is Trollope's first novel set in the violent Ireland of the 1830s, far from the placid Barsetshire world that later brought him fame. Trollope portrays the destruction of the McDermott family, victims at once of history, their own improvidence, and political hysteria. Trollope understood Irish life as few Englishmen have done, thanks to his long residence in Ireland. Anthony Trollope's Ralph the Heir. Published in 1871, Ralph the Heir is a novel of Trollope's maturity, featuring the darker hues and confident social criticism of his late phase, together with streaks of broad comedy. It tells the story of crossed inheritance. One Ralph Newton, a handsome ne'er-do-well, has the expectation of the family property. His cousin, also Ralph Newton, is a wholly worthy fellow, but a bastard, and may not by law inherit what his father desperately wants to bequeath him. The situation provides Trollope with the occasion for a profound analysis of moral worth and legal right. Get the hell out of my way. Thank you. Anthony Trollope's The Golden Lion of Grand Paris, set in a village in the Vosges Mountains in northeastern France. The Golden Lion of Grand Pierre was written when Trollope was at the height of his popularity. The novel concerns the events and the lives of an innkeeper's family, the relationship between George Voss, the landlord's son, and his beloved Marie, the rivalry between Voss and another suitor for Marie's hand in marriage, and the results of a betrothal based on mutual understandings. Another Trollope. The Fixed Period. This is a shorter looking one, obviously. This extraordinary novel, an exercise in Swiftian irony, combined with the love story in a futuristic setting, is quite uncharacteristic of Trollope. The Fixed Period, 1882, was received by the critics with a combination of admiration and horror. The Spectator called it a humorous sketch, while the Times reviewer considered it essentially ghastly. When a friend of Trollope's referred to the novel as a somewhat grim jest, Trollope stopped suddenly in his walk and exclaimed, "It's all true. I mean every word of it." All right, this one's going to be set aside to be read. If it's ghastly, I got to read it. Ghastly, they say. Trollope, an eye for an eye. That bro's pissed, or is that a woman? She's in a dress, so I'm going to assume it's a chick, but it kind of looks like Michael Stipe. She kind of looks like she has a goatee, but I don't know. Maybe it's a crossdresser. Fred Neville, a young officer in the Hussars, falls heir to an earldom. But before taking up his responsibilities, he resolves to enjoy a year of adventure in Ireland, where his regiment is posted. Among the romantic surroundings of the sheer cliffs of Moher on the rugged Atlantic coast, Fred meets and falls in love with an Irish girl of great beauty and mysterious background. His family oppose the match absolutely. Fred seduces his wild Irish girl, and the scene is set for a tragic outcome that far exceeds the adventures Fred had in mind. Hello, bruv. What do you got? Obviously, I got books. Lots of them. What did I say? 56 books in 2 days I bought. Anthony Trollope's Nina Balatka, Linda Tressel. Obviously, two novellas. Nina Balatka, 1867, and Linda Tressel, 1868, are at once unusual and typical among Trollope's novels. They are unusual because Trollope concealed his authorship, publishing both anonymously and setting them abroad. Prague for Nina Balatka, Nuremberg for Linda Tressel. Both novels are, however, typical, indeed vintage Trollope in their sympathetic treatment of their young heroines. Each studies religious rigidity. Catholic Nina loves a Jew. Linda's stern Calvinist aunt tries to ensure her salvation by marrying her to an old man and so crushing her spirit. Leave this one aside. We got more Trollops to go. Everyone loves a Trollope, don't they? Don't you? The Palliser novels, Phineas Finn by Anthony Trollope. As I said, I've got a dollop of Trollope. The Palliser novels of Anthony Trollope, politics per se, or rather the possibilities open to an elected member of the House of Commons, were, as Michael Sadleir has noted, very near to Anthony Trollope's heart. But for us today, the interest of his 6 political novels, Can You Forgive Her, Phineas Finn. See if I have all these in the thing. The Prime Minister, the Eustace Diamonds, Phineas Redux, and the Duke's Children is less in their politics than in the lively social scene Trollope created against the parliamentary background, and above all, in the superb set of characters, statesmen, politicians. All right, so these are kind of a series. Well, I only found 3 in the series. Actually, I think there was a 4th, but it was kind of torn up, so maybe I'll pick it up next time. Prime Minister, the Eustace Diamonds. The Eustace Diamonds. I think there's a larger Trollope too down there. Yes, there is, but I ain't gonna dig it out. I ain't going to dig it out. Anthony Trollope's La Vendée. La Vendée is unusual in being Trollope's only historical novel, written immediately before the first of the Barchester series. Or is that Baugh Sister? Baugh Sister. Set in rural western France in 1793, the plot centers on the civil war between royalists and republicans. Trollope's support for the rebels emerges not only through his treatment of military conflict, but also in a romantic subplot where the lovers are as doomed as the rebellion itself. His depiction of the turncoat Deneau is a piercing psychological study of a near pathological character, unusual for both for Trollope and for his time. And the second to last of the Trollope books, besides this one that's buried over there, is this Popenjoy? Or is it Popenjoy? Don't know. I don't know. The year 1874 saw the conclusion in London of a much publicized court case involving an unlikely pretender to an English baronetcy. What an odd word, baronetcy. Trollope responded to the public's interest in the scandal with Is He Popenjoy, which traces the claim by a shadowy figure to the Marquisate of Brotherton, the Popenjoy of the title. But woven into this main plot is a subplot of greater concern to Trollope's social conscience and sense of humor, the rebellion of young Mary Germain against her well-meaning but authoritarian husband, George. She is encouraged in this by the sensible and sympathetic Dean of Brotherton, and in a different way by her worldly friend Adelaide, who tempts her to public indiscretion. Her greatest temptation, however, is the dashing guards captain Jack de Baron, one of Trollope's most amiable young seducers in the Byronic mold. Fucking Pete Townsend. Oh, another Anthony Trollope, so that's the third to the last. The Three Clerks by Anthony Trollope. I'm not reading this whole thing. Trollope wept in later years rereading The Three Clerks, one of his favorite early works. The Three Clerks was his 6th novel, following immediately upon his first real success, Barchester Towers. Instead of situating a sequel in the carefully imagined Barretshire, Trollope set the three clerks in London, where his beloved civil service could serve him. He had served it 23 years, as background for a fiction remarkably recalling his own apprentice years. All right, so there's that. There's a curious book, The Mermaid's Head and the Dragon's Tail, which, on first glance, you think it's going to be something like mythology or something, but it turns out to just be a bunch of essays by established writers, most of them classic writers like Emerson, Dylan Thomas, Donald Hall, Henry David Thoreau, Plato. Yeah, it's just a mixed bag. Everything from My Negro Problem and Ours, Shooting an Elephant by Orwell, The War on the American Family by Lester Veely, A Dog in Brooklyn, A Girl in Detroit, A Life Among the Humanities. That one I might read since it's about Detroit. 136, let me see. What better career for a boy who seeks to unravel the meaning of our brief span on the earth than a philosopher? All right, I will put this aside. It's funny, too, because I have a old book label from, The Sign of the Mermaid. Wouldn't it be great if they actually sold that book? The Werner story, From Gnomes to Now. It's just about this is the first soda pop in, I think, America, wasn't it? It was from Detroit. It's a ginger ale. Ginger ale connoisseurs love deliciously different Vernors. If you can ever get Vernors, it's really good. With the secret formula in his pocket and a soda pop named after him, in 1866, entrepreneur and inventor James Werner introduced Detroiters to his gingery concoction, Werner's Ginger Ale, a drink that shook the local beverage world, and one that's still a player in the ultra-competitive beverage industry. Maybe it was like the first one that was mass-produced. I don't know. Anyway, it's really good, and in Michigan, you call it pop. You don't call it soda. Because why would you call it soda when that's an ingredient? Whereas it's called pop because the cork used to pop out of the bottle. You don't call a chocolate donut a chocolate. You call it a donut. What do you know about crime, bruv? Edward Hale Bierstadt, 1935 book, and I did a short earlier on a little quiz that's in the middle of the book where you try to guess the pictures and see if you can identify that crime. This was for crime buffs. Apparently there were some in 1935. What do you know about poisons? With what disease or ailment has arsenical poisoning often been confused? Yeah, this is kind of like a quiz book. It is said that both the Borgias and the Medici used such devices as poison gloves and candles to rid themselves of their enemies. What poison did they use? What common remedy, usually sold for the purpose of rejuicing, has also been used as a poison? And this book will have to wait because I will allow me mother to borrow it. Cemetery Nights by Stephen Dobbins. I also did a video on this book comparing him to Robinson Jeffers, and there is no comparison. But I like the cover because it's a funeral scene, so nothing cheers you up like a funeral scene. Cemetery Nights too, because the moon burns a bright orange, because their memories beat them like flails, because even in death it is possible to take only so much, because the night watchman has slipped out for a drink. The dead decide to have a party. Helter-skelter, they hurry to the center of the graveyard, clasp hands and attack the possibility of pleasure. How brave to play the clarinet with when your fingers fall off. How persevering to dance when your feet keep fleeing into the tall grass. How courageous to sing when your tongue flops down on the stage, and you must stop to stick it back. And what does she sing? This chanteuse of the night? Melancholy baby, I got plenty of nothing. Right, so that's rubbish, right? Grandfather's Chair by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I went to the estate sale that I bought this at in hopes of finding a Edgar Allan Poe book that was there, but it was long gone. So I settled for this. What is it, 1890 something? Yeah, 1893. At least that's the copyright. I don't know if it's actually 1893. But it's got to be worth some money. $10, $15 range. Grandfather's Chair by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I haven't read any Hawthorne. I probably should at some point. What the hell is that? Is that a witch back there? That was an Indian killing some fucker. That is not a witch. That's Roger Williams in the forest. Oh, who's this? Shakespeare? No, it's John Winthrop. Indian weapons. Indian warriors. Yeah, cool book with embossed and colored covers, boards. Look at that chair. What the fuck? That's a real chair. Just screaming. Screaming is hatred for you, love. Peyton Place by Grace Metalius. The explosive bestseller that lifts the lid off a respectable New England town. I think I have several. Look at this chick. She's just in a flannel and a pair of jeans. Grace Metalius is the young housewife in blue jeans who created America's most controversial novel, Peyton Place, the big bestseller about small town USA, which has been damned and banned and hailed as one of the most extraordinary literary discoveries of recent years. Peggy Fitzgerald, he had said, laughing in what he later remembered as his one and only attempt at humor with her. Peggy Fitzgerald, he said in his easily remembered brogue, puts me in mind of me mither, an Irish lass from County Galway. All right. That already convinced me it's a piece of shit. Irving's sketchbook, and by Irving, we're not talking Julius. We're talking Washington Irving, the author of The Sleepy Hollow, or Sleepy Hollow. There's some interesting school label in there from 1929. There's Washington Irving. Did not expect him to look like that. Although you will see in another book down there that he didn't always look like that. He looks like he had a stroke at this point. Maybe he's just old. 1925 with notes and introduction. It's a small little pocket-sized book, about the size of a pack of cigarettes. A little bit longer than that, but yeah, it's got his classics, Rip Van Winkle, and I had forgotten that he wrote Rip Van Winkle. So yeah, pretty cool little book. Macmillan. What's that say? 13 Stories by Eudora Welty. What's up, bruv? What do you got? You got 13 stories? Tell me one. Miss Welty has written some of the finest short stories of modern times. Let's read a little bit of one. A Still Moment. Let's start reading this. We'll see what it sounds like. Lorenzo Dow rode the old Natchez Trace at top speed upon a racehorse, and the cry of the itinerant man of God, I must have souls, and souls I must have, rang in his own windy ears. He rode as if never to stop toward his night's appointment. It was the hour of sunset. All the souls that he had saved and all those he had not took dusty shapes in the mist that hung between the high banks and seemed by their great number and density to block his way, and showed no signs of melting or changing back into mist. so that he feared his passage was to be difficult forever. The poor souls that were not saved were darker and more pitiful than those that were, and still there was not any of the radiance he would have hoped to see in such a congregation. Light up in God's name, he called, in the pain of his disappointment. Then a whole swarm of fireflies instantly flickered all around him, up and down, back and forth. First one golden light, and then another, flashing without any of the weariness that had held back the souls. What do you think? Pretty blasé to me, but what do I know? And now we got some, and there's a train. Some Agatha Christie. Mostly I get these just because, why not? Agatha is a classic, and you can't go wrong with Agatha. But they also usually have good covers. As you can see, Elephants Can Remember, Endless Night, which is a very good cover. Some kind of gypsy. So Many Steps to Death, which is an average cover. And then Death on the Nile with looks like some kind of fucking voodoo doll. Get a little bookmark in there for free. Clip-on bookmark. In the middle of nowhere. I've never read any Agatha Christie, and I probably should at some point. Oh, look at this. See, that's great little clip art. Pocket books. Elephants Can Remember signals the return of two of Agatha Christie's greatest creations, Mrs. Ariadne. I can't say it. All right. Convinces me to shut the fuck up on that matter. What else do we got? Ariel by Sylvia Plath. This is an earlier edition, but someone jizzed all over it. So, The Munich Mannequins. Perfection is terrible. It cannot have children. Cold as snow breath, it tamps the womb, where the yew trees blow like hydras. The tree of life and the tree of life, on losing their moons, month after month, to no purpose. The blood flood is the flood of love, the absolute sacrifice. It means no more idols but me. Me and you, so in the sulfur loveliness. In their smiles, these mannequins lean tonight in Munich, morgue between Paris and Rome, naked and bald in their furs, orange lollies on silver sticks, intolerable, without mind. The snow drops its pieces of darkness. Nobody's about. In the hotels, hands will be opening doors and setting down shoes for a polish of carbon, into which broad toes will go tomorrow. Oh, the domesticity of these windows, the baby lace, the green-leaved confectionery. The thick Germans slumbering in their bottomless stoles, and the black phone on hooks, glittering and digesting. Voicelessness. The snow has no voice. Yeah, so Sylvia Plath, one of the 5 good female poets of all time. Stasis in Darkness. To Bonnie with Love on her birthday, 1972. What's that say? Ray Valdina? When did this book come out? 60s? 61. I don't know if that's an early edition or not. What else do we got? We by Charles A. Lindbergh. Obviously a biography of Lindbergh, Robert Brown, and Scott. To Bob. Merry Christmas, 1928, from Will and Irma. Max and Irma's brothers and sisters. Spirits of St. Louis. G.P. Putnam's Sons, 1928. The famous flyer's own story of his life and his transatlantic flight, together with his views on the future of aviation. This is a 31st impression, so not exactly the first edition, but Holy shit. That's a parade? Oh, that's a June snowstorm. What is that, ticker tape? Obviously. Didn't they claim that Lindbergh killed his baby? Killed this baby. Oh, no. The back is all jizzed up, but that's okay. What's that to me, bruv? Nice cover. I don't know what the dust jacket looks like. 2 Wilkie Collins books, Poor Miss Finch and The Law and the Lady. If you've never read Wilkie Collins, you probably should, because he's one of the great writers. I hold him up there with Victor Hugo. Pull the sticker off. Promised I was not going to pull stickers off anymore during live cast. Not that anyone gives a shit what I'm saying anyways, but it's bad practice to keep pulling them off. But I do it anyway. The Law and the Lady. Valerie Woodville's first act as a married woman is to sign her name in the marriage register incorrectly, and this slip is followed by the gradual disclosure of a series of secrets about her husband's earlier life, each of which leads on to another set of questions and enigmas. Her discoveries prompt her to defy her husband's authority. Sounds a lot like that Trollope book that I briefly read the back of. Probably the first full-length novel with a woman detective as its heroine. Poor Miss Finch. She does look very sad. Wilkie Collins' intriguing story about a blind girl, Lucilla Finch, and the identical twins who both fall in love with her has the exciting complications of his better-known novels, but it also overturns conventional expectations. Using a background of myth and fairy tale to expand the boundaries of 19th century realist fiction, Collins not only takes a blind person as his central character, but also explores the idea of blindness and its implications. The best or collected verse of Edgar A. Guest. I've mentioned several of Guest's books on here because he was I don't think he was from Detroit, but he ended up in Detroit. If he wasn't from here, he ended up as working for the Detroit Free Press. He worked his way up. I think he started as just a normal laborer with the Free Press, and then he made his way up the ladder and became a columnist, and he started writing chintzy little poems like To a Baby, just a little bunch of gladness, just a little pack of glee. In this world, no hint of sadness or of trouble can you see. Life is feasting, life is laughter, and a tickling of the chin. Never mind what follows after. Drain your bottle now and grin. Yeah, so I mean, he basically wrote popular poetry for fools, and he became a huge sensation. He was mocked, but his book sold, so no one could really fucking condemn him because he was making a shitload of money and he gained power. This is not really a book. This is a diary of a woman from Dearborn, Michigan who went to Waikiki. I think it was Waikiki. Is that what she says? Let's see what she says. Yeah, Waikiki. 1986. Waikiki Beach Tower? Yeah. So I will read this later on when August comes around. Mr. Cat. George Friedley. Drawings by Victor Dowling. Mr. Cat. Let's see what Mr. Cat's about. George Friedley was born in Richmond, Virginia in 1904. After graduating from the University of Richmond and Yale University, he came to New York first as an actor, making his debut on the stage. Who gives a damn? Let's see what the book's about. In 1940, the drama critic Brooks Atkinson wrote a brief tribute to his German Shepherd dog, Cleo for short. It was frankly and unashamedly sentimental. His publishers wrote, "It is a hard-boiled reader who will not cherish the exultant Cleo as much as her master did. It is a hard-boiled reader who will not share George Friedley's affection for Mr. Cat. From their first meeting in the rear of a Second Avenue pet shop, they were good and comforting companions for over 16 years. Mr. Cat's adventures were not spectacular or unique. He roamed, he played with his friends, he got lost and then found, but every cat lover will recognize and respect his master's fondness and the pride." Yeah, so it's a pretty cool old copy. What year is this? Oh, it even has an embossment. What's it say? William A. Dick. Mr. Cat. Here, buddy. 1960, it says. I may actually already have a copy of this, but I don't now. Charlie LaDuff. He's a writer. He used to be on TV shows as a political commentator, but he's from Detroit, and I think he went to New Jersey or wherever and became a reporter. But he ended up back in Detroit, and this is his book, and it's signed on Detroit, an American Autopsy. Basically, what went wrong with the city of Detroit, why it became one of the great industrial centers and turned into this. What the hell is this? Packard plant, East Side. Why is there a chick? Is that a hooker? What the hell is this? Why is that even a picture? What's this, from the riots or something? What the fuck is this? It's a great photo. These body bags. Maybe Charlie's a photographer too. It's pretty damn good photos, whoever took them. That one's boring. What the hell is going on here? I don't know who took the photos, but they're pretty good. Signed copy. Erich Fromm, You Shall Be as Gods. A radical interpretation of the Old Testament and its tradition. I have several books by Fromm, and I keep threatening to read them. Eventually I will. In this major book from the author of The Sane Society and Man for Himself, we explore the evolution in the Old Testament of the basic concepts of God, man, history, sin, and repentance. P.G. Wodehouse P. Smith. Is that one name? P. Smith? Said P. Smith. Work, said P. Smith, with simple dignity. I am now a member of the staff of this bank. Its interests are my interests. P. Smith, P. Smith, the individual ceases to exist, and there springs into being P. Smith. Or is it just Smith with a P on the beginning of his name? I don't really know Wodehouse, so. Interesting. P. Smith. Obviously, you know The Godfather, Mario Puzo. This is an early paperback edition of The Godfather. What year is this? When year did The Godfather even come out? Obviously in the 60s, since this is a 1978 printing. Decent copy, like I said. Not great shape, but considering the age, pretty good shape. Hey, I'm talking to buddy. Lenny Bruce. Lenny, based on the motion picture starring Dustin Hoffman, Lenny, the real story of Lenny Bruce. As you can see, it's got some moisture exposure. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but I'm being busted, and I can't finish the performance. He was the stunningly brilliant comic. I've heard him. He wasn't that brilliant. He was the stunningly brilliant comic and prophet, whose wild sense of the absurd and unerring antenna for human folly and fraud brought him into violent conflict with the courts and the cops. He was a man obsessed, a spell-binding performer with a high-pressure mind and a razor-sharp wit, whose short life was high adventure, lived at a fever pitch of passion. Here is the frank story of his dramatic life, his meteoric rise to fame, his tortured defeats, his years of unrelenting struggle with the authorities, and his final tragic end. Lenny Bruce. Jailbird by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. I don't know why he didn't put Jr. on most of his books. What year is this printing? 1979. I don't know when the original was published. Never read much. Vonnegut doesn't really interest me. Jailbird definitely mounts up on angelic wings in its speed, in its sparkle, and in its high-flying intent. A profoundly humane comedy. Who's looking for that? Let's be honest. This one's really cool. Dr. David Livingstone. It's in shambles, but look like it has moisture exposure. But here's a very cool inscription from June 22nd. Is that today? No, today's like the 29th. I was close. A week ago, 131 years ago, presented to Daniel McCubry for success in learning SS number 8 Euphemia Usli section from, does it say J.E. Henny? Teacher. There you go, bruv. Nice little book for you. There he is. Dr. Livingstone, I presume. 1886 book. What year does he sign it? 1894. There's the lion. Dr. David Livingstone was a Scotchman of Highland extraction and born of comparatively humble but honest parents. Near the great manufacturing and trading city of Glasgow, his occupation in youth was in a cotton manufactory on the banks of the Clyde, and so different in its monotonous life from what his after career came to be in his varied wanderings, that it is difficult to suppose the man and the boy the same passings. Is there also a thing in there? No. Book's in not very good shape, but opinions of the press, some recent publications, Oliphant, Anderson, and Ferrier. Annie Swan, Livingstone's followers. McAlpine's official map of Pontiac. I guess this isn't exactly a book, so I'll just skip it. Bartender's Guide. The standard bartender's guide. And not shocking, vintage books on bartending are worth some money. I plan to sell this if I can get anything for it. What year is this? 1950s? 40s? The Standard Bartender's Guide by Patrick Gavin Duffy. 1962. I was close. It was originally published in 1940. Yeah, bartending. Here we go, bruvs. Little Journeys to the Homes of American Authors. I believe this is by Albert Hubbard. Florence P. I don't know what this says. December 28th, 1896. I don't know what year that is. Pages are falling out. The first section is out. But there's some pretty cool illustrations in here. Bryant. And there's like little facsimile letters in here. Cool stuff. facsimile letter of Emerson's. There's a cool, whatchamacallit, portrait of Nathaniel Hawthorne in here. I believe it's Hawthorne. Yes. And then you get him. There's his portrait. Look at that hair. That's fucking brilliant. And then you got the ghost portrait on the back. I don't know what that process is called, where the oxidation or whatever it is seeps through, but it also seeped through that one. I love it. Oh wait, was there a thing in the back? Was that a different book? Nope, it was a different book. Audell's Carpenter's and Builder's Guide. I think it's 1950s. Nothing special, just how to be a carpenter. Take it home and read it, Bubba. You could be a carpenter too. Is it 52? 51. Cool cover though, I like it. I didn't realize that there was 4 volumes in the set, but that's how it goes. What are we? 51 minutes into this cast. 1966. William T. Miles. Patricia M. Miles. I assume that's the people I got this from. William T. Miles. 66 through 68. It's Michigan Social Register, so I assume it's like all the rich people and that kind of stuff. Late 60s. Prominent people. I guess if you're part of it, then you can probably call them or whatever. I don't really know what it does if you're not. I don't know why it has a social register, but there you go. Just means you made it. Doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean nothing. My Sister's Hands in Mine. The collected works of Jane Bowles, with an introduction by Truman Capote. Is she related to Paul Bowles or no? I don't know anything about her. Is this like a play or something? It's like novels or stories. Collected works. Here's to Crime. Courtney Riley Cooper, another guy with a feminine name, but I'm pretty sure it's a dude that wrote this book. It's a 1917 book of crime. Has it been republished? 1937. To the Honorable Homer Cummings. Let's be sensible regarding this drivel that crime does not pay. The slogan was conceived by some well-meaning sentimentalist who believed the phrase would become a bogeyman to frighten little boys and girls into security against temptation. It might have accomplished its object, except that the juvenile mind is so constructed that one motion picture depicting a machine gun murdering gangster and heroic attitudes is sufficient to kick all the slogans in the world out the nearest window. So yeah, it's pretty nearly antique book. And then it also has a... No, it doesn't have one in there. I thought there was a sticker in the back. Guess I'm wrong. Maybe it's in the front. Where the hell did it go? I could have swore there was one back here. Maybe there's an end page here that I'm missing. No. Then what frickin' book was it in? Not this one. Pretty sure it was in this book. Did it fall out? What the fuck happened to it? I don't know. Guess there wasn't. Maybe it was that other little book. Where'd it go? Rudyard Kipling, Complete Verses. Complete Verse. Definitive edition. Obviously, this poem, If, is his most famous, but this has some water damage, but I don't care. What do I care? I have a couple books on Kipling's poetry, but this is obviously the definitive book, at least whenever it was published. Probably in 85. 19, It's definitely not 33. 1989. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Endless Life. Selected Poems. Pound at Spoleto. Obviously, he was one of the Beats, so he's going to write this kind of free verse. San Jose Symphony Reception. The bold man in plaid, playing the harpsichord, stopped short and slided over to the sideboard and copped a piece of mocha on a silver plate and slid back and started playing again, some kind of Hungarian rhapsodate, while the lady with the green eye shades leaned over him, exuding admiration and lust. Half notes danced and tumbled out of his instrument, exuding a faint odor of chocolate cake. Gallery Canal. I'm not sure how you say his name. Kennel, but he was a poet of some renown. Poetry has always been marked by richness of language. He's decent. Let's find a very short one. Very, very short one. He's got to have at least one short one. Please, a short one. Please, please. No, you ain't got to give me a short one. That's too long. I need something shorter. So short that I barely... There we go. Daybreak. On the tidal mud, just before sunset, dozens of starfishes were creeping. It was his... I ain't reading that bullshit. Robert Lowell. Day by Day, a book I already have. I mean, I probably would have known that if I scanned the barcode, but it has no barcode, so there you go. The leap from three adjectives to an object is impossible. Legs purple and white, like purple grapes on marble. 6 or 7 swallows drag the air, their fast play of flight unbroken, as if called by a voice. The flies become fewer about my head. A long-winded wasp stumbles on me, marauding, providing, as if about to sting, patting, smelling me, caught in the carnivorous harmony of nature. The small girl has a set of jagged chip of sandstone on the grave of a crow, chalked with white, Gothic like a valentine, for Charlie, who died last night. Your father died last month. He is buried, not too deep to lie, alive like a feather on the top of the mind. Final Exit. This is a book about assisted suicide for the dying. And it's kind of convenient since I do plan on reading the book about Jack Kevorkian, who was a pioneer, so to speak, in assisted suicide back in, 90s? So yeah, there's a companion piece, which seems to be in fucking large print. All right, 4 more books. Can we get through it, Buff? Before we get to the 1 hour mark, I don't think we can. The Old Man in the Corner, 12 Mysteries by the Baroness Orczy. The enigmatic and self-assured old man. Yeah, just stories. Let's see if there's anything that sounds interesting. The Murder of Miss Pebmarsh. The Mysterious Death on the Underground Railway. A Circus of Needs. Poems by Stephen Dunn. And that's all you really need to see. Poems aren't much better than his fucking fashion sense. Hey, buddy. Hey, how you doing? Not good, not good. Castle Richmond, or is it Richmond, by Anthony Trollope, the last of the Trollope books. And who knows what it's about? It's a love story. Against the tragic backdrop, the time is the 1840s and the Great Potato Famine is raging in Ireland. Starvation stalks the land. The workhorses' houses are full, and soup kitchens aid the poor with a thin, barely digestible cornmeal pudding. Against this tragic backdrop, Anthony Trollope has set one of his most affecting chronicles of 19th century British manners and morals. It is a tale of passionate love and dark secrets, of the love of two men for the same woman, of a vast inheritance hanging in the balance. Exciting. The merchant class of medieval London. It's at the 1500s, 14th and 15th centuries. A brilliant and scholarly study of the mercantile world of medieval London in the 14th and 15th centuries. Sylvain Thorpe explores merchant life of the world made famous by Chaucer. Ann Arbor paperback. Interesting. Pete Erspammer. All right, that's all, bruvs. All the books I got today. Very, very lovely.